A very good evening to you tuned into Smart 24 TV. Thank you for joining us for this particular bulletin. I'm RONAH NAHABWE with WINNIE NAKAWUKI on the sign language interpretation. But first, let's look at what made the headlines.
Uganda Climate Forum stakeholders revisit COP27 outcomes. Climate financing shortfalls highlighted as $100 billion pledged for developing countries is still unmet. KPA Dock Workers Union Tambo. The Dock Workers Union serves Kenya Ports Authority 21 days ultimatum to fix medical scheme. And also, integrated transport. The Uganda Railways Corporation partners with private hybrid transport providers to maximize in the last mile market.
In our first story tonight, the Uganda National Climate Forum has convened to reflect on COP27 outcomes that were meant to address the impacts of climate change. It is from this forum that it was observed that the need of enhanced climate finance still throws a menace due to developed countries' failure so far to fulfill their promise to mobilize $100 billion per year in finance.
What was agreed at COP26 was on climate finance, where richer nations agreed to provide $100 billion per year to help fund emissions reduction in poor nations by 2023. However, the biggest source of tension at COP27 was the failure of developed countries to keep their promises. According to Sam Cheptoris, the Minister of Water and Environment, their hands are tied up due to lack of funds to mitigate the effects of climate change until developed countries come to their rescue.
So we cannot do much unless the developed world fulfills that pledge of $100 billion per year.
The Right Honourable Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga, the first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for East African Affairs, says that they were able to convince the government to restore the National Environmental Fund that had diminished as a starting point while they are waiting for the developed countries to fulfill their promises.
Able to convince government to reinstate the National Environment Fund. You know, it had been taken away, but they are going to insert it. We think that it will help us, it will help this ministry to have something to start with. Because as we wait for the loss and damage fund, we should be able to do some things for ourselves.
Financing is not only about somebody giving more money, it's also about, even here where we have banks, for example, can we negotiate with the banks when we have a project that is promoting climate change? Can you get a very reduced interest rate, for example? That is a financing instrument we can look into. And so there are different ways of looking at some of these things. But beyond financing, I think what is important is that sometimes you can have the money, but what is important is that what are we doing ourselves? Whilst climate change is of a global nature, the impacts are local as well. So how we also organize ourselves locally, how we work with local communities to make sure we prepare them for the impact of climate change also becomes important.
Margaret Athieno Mwebesa, the Commissioner Climate Change at the Minister of Water and Environment, stated at the Uganda National Climate Forum, which convened to reflect the COP27 outcomes intended to address the impacts of climate change, that while at COP27 they finalized on supporting carbon trading as a way of reducing emissions.
Carbon trading is one of the ways that the countries can cooperate to reduce on their emissions. So it is a very important area, and for us as a country, we are taking it very seriously. And we should all know that carbon credits are actually tradable. It is actually money that we can do, if we do it well, can bring a lot of revenue to the country.
Because carbon pricing is very important, and because you produce carbon at a cost. You don't just say my trees are there. Somebody made efforts to make sure that those trees are there, and therefore how do you make sure that you get the right pricing for the investment that you have made?
Officials from Uganda who attended COP27 revealed that they emphasized the need to have climate finance delivered to poor countries as grants, not as loans. Success at COP27 ultimately rests on the ability to get money flowing from the wealthy countries to those most in need at the pace and scale required to match the climate crisis. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Away from climate change, let's look at cooperative banks. Now, the cooperative bank was registered in 1964 under the Cooperatives Act and has never been liquidated. The government has been tasked with accelerating efforts to revive the shattered cooperative bank, which has been hailed as a potentially game-changing solution to farmers' financial needs. Additionally, the government has been asked to invest in cooperative education to raise awareness and support of the industry's expansion.
The cooperative movement in Uganda may be traced back to the 1920s when farmer associations functioned underground because the colonial authority deemed the development of cooperatives to be premature and had implemented regulations making it an offense for any financial institution to lend money to an African farmer. The cooperative ordinance to authorize their operations was not passed until 1946. Earlier this month, the Ministry of Trade stated that it intends to establish a cooperative bank for the former street vendors and that government has begun the process, as well as calls for collaboration with other commercial banks.
Make sure that after organizing yourselves, we form a cooperative bank. And we are in high gears. Cabinet has already allowed us to start on the initial plans. We have started the initial plans of putting our cooperative bank. Of course, we have resistance here and there because other banks, which are other international banks, may have a problem with the cooperative bank because this is the voice of the people. If we brought all the cooperatives in one bank and we have the capacity, we shall liquidate other banks and they will end up not in business. So we are trying to negotiate with them on how to work together because what we know, the cooperative bank must be in place.
Start a bank that will be sustainable because we are avoiding future mistakes like it was assumed if it was there. We are trying to avoid that. So once we get this feedback from the Bank of Uganda, Central Bank, we get feedback from the team that did the benchmarking in report form, we shall sit as cooperators. I tell you, cooperators have resources, they have money. They can act.
Farmers, unlike commercial banks, require flexible banks that address their needs, according to Ivan Asimwe, the General Secretary of Uganda Cooperative Alliance. The country currently has over 45,000 registered cooperatives and 14 million cooperators.
Together with the resource providers in ensuring that resources are provided to the cooperators. And here when we are talking of the cooperatives in the country, where we talk of the UCA being an apex body, we are generally talking about over 45,000 registered cooperatives, serving over 14 million Ugandans.
The cooperative bank may very well be re-established if Ugandans are sufficiently made aware of its existence. But what are the requirements for structuring a cooperative bank?
The coffee farmers come together. Coffee farmers are served through UCA, but through that structure, which is a union. Like members of Bugis Cooperative Union are primary cooperatives, and the members of those primary cooperatives are farmers. So when you bring the farmers in Bugis region, they come together in a certain area, they form primary cooperatives, then you bring the primary cooperatives together, you form a union, which is Bugis Cooperative Union.
Uganda's third national development plan, whose goal is to increase average household incomes and improve the quality of life of the citizens of Uganda, recognizes cooperatives as central in mobilizing and organizing farm-level production, value addition, marketing, savings and financial intermediation at the local level. More than 20 years after the closure of the cooperative bank, the members of the Uganda Cooperative Alliance have resurrected the dream by tasking the government to invest in cooperative education.
We need to invest a lot in cooperative education. Like what I've explained here, how many people understand this information? They are few. So how can we make sure that Ugandans, because I see the government is very positive on supporting and establishing cooperatives across the country. I'm so grateful with the government and His Excellency in particular. He's supporting the parish development model using the circle methodology. There is the Emyoga circles which are being supported. These are circles and other initiatives that are targeting cooperatives. But the challenge is in this country, do we have enough human resource That is a challenge.
Established in 1961, Uganda Cooperative Alliance Limited is the apex body of all registered cooperative societies in Uganda, covering different sectors of the economy. If the government decides to invest in these sectors' education, it will improve the common person's access to finance, particularly when it comes to loans. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, as the annual insurance week from 6th to 10th closes in, we take a leap into the insurance brokerage and marine insurance, just one of the many dimensions of the service. Now, Paul Mohamed, the chairman of Insurance Brokers Association of Uganda, joins us tonight to dissect some of these issues. Good evening, Paul. Thank you for joining us. Good evening, Paul. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, RONAH. Good evening, members.
First things first, as brokers, I believe you are positioned to understand the market better. What is how detached is the society with regards to insurance? In other words, what is your perception in the uptake of insurance for Ugandans?
As we well know, insurance is there to provide solutions for the challenges that are out there. It could be better, but in Uganda, the insurance penetration is about 1%. So there is still quite a bit of work for us to do to make sure that people can look at insurance as the way they can sort out their solutions.
Marine insurance, how crucial is this particular part of insurance?
Well, marine insurance mostly covers cargo, freight, or ships against exposure, for example, fire, explosions, or even if the cargo was to sink. So it's very critical because a lot of what we use here comes from outside. And that means whether it's coming from Europe, coming from Asia, the US, if it has to come to Uganda, it goes through the sea. And that's what mostly marine insurance is all about. It's quite crucial because, God forbid, should anything happen to this cargo, it means those who are receiving it or those who own it will have been at a loss. And so marine insurance is there to... well, whether landlocked or not, marine insurance is critical for most people who are importing cargo. So what we need to have better is, because when marine insurance comes, it usually cuts off at the port. In the case of Uganda, this would be Dar es Salaam or Mombasa. Most of our cargo comes through Mombasa. Being landlocked means that those who are importing in Uganda need to take on more marine insurance, because once the cargo still gets to Mombasa, there's still the extra journey from Mombasa all the way to the final port of destination, which may be Kampala, anywhere else around Uganda, or farther than the current borders we have.
But does Uganda's insurance, marine insurance sector present a realistic market, in your view, of course?
Oh yes, oh yes. Uganda's marine sector is out there. Most of the insurers we have do provide marine insurance. Our insurance are properly regulated by the Insurance Regulatory Authority of Uganda, which means the public can have comfort in insuring locally, knowing very well that should anything happen to their cargo, they would have compensation locally. There is an avenue in case people or the public out there is in disagreement with the insurers for whichever reason, there's a complaints desk, a complaints channel, which the public can use. This gives comfort to the public that they can insure marine locally and be sure that, God forbid, should anything happen to their cargo, there will be compensation.
Okay, Paul, last year in a conference you pledged an insurance with transparency and trust. What exactly is into that?
Sorry, repeat the question again.
Yeah, if I quote you well, you pledged an insurance an insurance of trust and transparency. What exactly is into that?
You say trust and compliance. Sorry, maybe it's the gadget. I'm not hearing the words properly.
Transparency and trust in any insurance. Yes.
Trust and compliance.
Yes.
We pledged. Yes. Again, insurance has moved quite a lot over the last 20, 30 years. And one thing we can be sure of is that the public now has got a much stronger insurance industry. All the players have to undergo serious compliance, spearheaded by the Insurance Regulatory Authority of Uganda. This is mostly to say that the public can have trust in the insurance process. And again, like shared before, if there is, for whatever reason, any member of the public feeling that they were not justly served by any insurance company, there are avenues to go to. The other opportunity is to use an insurance broker, the body that I represent as chairman. One of the ideas here is that by using an insurance broker, you can be sure that the insurance broker will do whatever it is they can to make sure that your claims are paid in the quickest turnaround time, following up with the insurers.
Okay, in July last year, Insurance Regulatory Authority, together with URA, they made a policy where all cargo importers have to insure their goods with local insurers. What is the progress so far in regards to that policy?
Oh yes, this is a major platform, a marine platform that is designed mostly to make sure that each and every cargo that is being imported into the country has to be insured locally. Already this is in the laws that all cargo coming in has to be insured locally. The challenge has been with implementation. By the Insurance Regulatory Authority of Uganda and Uganda Revenue Authority coming together and bringing together this platform whereby all cargo coming in will be insured locally. It does help and safeguard the importer. What we see right now happening a lot, or what has been happening in the past, is many clients here, or many people will insure their cargo, and it will be through what is called the CIF basis, the cost, insurance, and freight, of which that insurance is mostly given to the insurance companies that are in the country where the exporter is coming from. The challenge with that is sometimes it is hard to follow through with that. When you open your cargo here, let's say open your container, it's very unclear where that damage could have come from. Could it have come before the port of Mombasa, which is where most of that insurance cuts off? Or could it have been between Mombasa and the final port of destination? By having this platform, it's basically saying that insurance will be from the point of departure to the point of destination, whereby in case you opened up your container and found damage, for example, you'll be rest assured that there's a local insurer around who was involved in that insurance and whom you can go to for compensation. Why URA also gets involved in this is that there is also an opportunity for them. On top of compliance, they're able to earn something on money that would have naturally been going out of the country. This money is now staying within.
Well, they do, the insurers and reinsurers complain that they think URA will not be able to earn as much as they would if they got insurers or other international insurers. How do you think that this situation can best be harmonized? Because in a recent sensitization workshop with the two parties, clearing agents and insurers were angry, they were enraged. How best do you think this can be solved and, in quickly, with speed, with the kind of urgency it requires?
Well, I think what's most important is to increase on the sensitization. This platform, I believe, is good for Uganda. It protects the importers. The insurance premium that is being spoken about is premium that would traditionally be going out to other countries or to insurers of other countries. What is happening here is through compliance, they're saying is let's insure locally and make sure that should there be any damage, these risks can be handled locally and the importers would have compensation locally, which is a good thing.
Still on the slow implementation, deliberate or not, do you think the local insurers have built themselves enough capacity to compete for these bids? Because one of the issues that were raised in that sensitization workshop were some of these insurers are not really built. They don't have the capacity. And so then they say, try us and see if we fail. Do you think they have the capacity? I still want to use another example in regards to that. We saw an empty Kabaka Mutebi last year, at the end of last year, bring in 1.1 million liters of fuel. You can bet that that vessel was not insured by a local insurer, if you are to agree with me. So how do you think, or do you think they have the capacity to bid?
Well, first and foremost, each and every insurance company locally has to undergo serious compliance and regulation through the Insurance Regulatory Authority of Uganda. I believe most of them have the capacity. Now, one thing is insurers can provide insurance for the general public, but behind they also have reinsurers who are insurers for insurance companies. And through that network, they are able to meet most of the exposure that is here. However, the insurers are also mindful that if something was for whichever way beyond them, they have the right avenues and partners around, whether through the same reinsurance companies or insurance companies, to make sure that at any one time they have enough capacity to cover local exposures.
The marine resources themselves, how insurable is the fisheries sector and the marine-based businesses in Uganda?
Well, that's a bit subjective. You see, what will happen is if you really go into the finer detail and check what kind of marine or the fishery industry, you'll find many of them, or the bulk of it, is informal. Here you have single fishermen who will catch their few fish and deal with it. So many of those don't really get into the insurance area. So you'll always find maybe it is those companies that have a lot more exposure that go in for insurance. So there is work to do, and that's why I say subjective, in the sense that those who have more to lose are the ones who will seek insurance. But those who have little to lose sometimes will get outside the insurance chain or value chain. And that is where I would like to put in some more emphasis to advise and sensitize and bring awareness within the general public on the solutions that are available amongst the insurance industry.
As we get to conclude, what is the position, or how impressive is the evolution in regards to imports, exports, especially in this same sector, insurance sector, vis-a-vis the demand in marine insurance, or even in a broad way?
That's a very wide question, if I got it correctly.
I'm asking, in your opinion, of course, as brokers of insurance, how impressive is the evolution in regards to imports and exports?
You're asking how effective is the?
How impressive is the evolution in regards to imports and exports for the insurance sector?
Okay, what I could say is that times are changing. Like we very well know, there was a way that business was done before COVID. There's a way that business is done after. One thing about the insurance industry is it is moving and evolving with the rest of the world. We've seen technology taking a bigger space in it and making sure that solutions are able to reach the public better. We've seen innovation taking also a bigger space in ensuring that solutions can get more towards the public. We're also seeing micro-insurance products coming up. And if you'll see, this coming week, the next week, is the Insurance Appreciation Week. This is the week whereby all insurance players, whether it is the insurance companies, the insurance brokers, agents, will all be meeting together in town around the railway station area to engage the public, to understand better from the public, and thereafter go back and be able to design products that mostly meet the needs of the public.
Great stuff, great stuff. Your final remarks as we conclude this conversation?
Oh yes, one is to encourage as many members as possible. Next week is going to be the Insurance Week. For all those who have questions, those who have queries, issues, can always engage, go to the railway side and engage the different players that are out there to know better about insurance. In May, later this year, We shall be having our insurance conference, which will be in Jinja. I'm sure most of the information will come out later. At least this to give the general public comfort, knowing that they should not carry this kind of risks alone. If they can get in touch with anyone, whether it's an insurance company, insurance broker, or insurance agent, give them the problems that they have or the challenges they have, there are solutions around, and they should take advantage of these solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the pleasure of your time, Paul Mohamed. That is Paul Mohamed, the chairman of Insurance Brokers Association, who will lead us to a break. But before that, I would like to ask, is your business insured? If not, you need to ask yourself that. Let's take a short break and we will return with more from Business Today.
Smart 24, driving business.
What if you could boost your most loved entertainment?
We're up in the ante.
Upgrade your DSTV package and we'll boost you to the next higher package at no extra cost. If you're on Access and step up to Family, you get boosted to Compact.
You know what I mean.
If you're on Family, step up to Compact and we'll boost you to Compact Plus.
That's an absolute ripper.
And if you're on Compact, step up to Compact Plus, you'll get boosted to Premium.
It's gonna be lit.
Step up and we'll boost you even higher at no extra charge with DSTV.
It's super fast internet. Oh, it's a super camera. It's a super battery.
Fun battery phone.
Yeah, it's a super deal. Get the Kapote Super from MTN now at a reduced initial deposit of only 49,000 shillings and pay the balance in Pola for as low as 833 shillings per day. Grab this Super Kapote deal and get 2 GB of free MTN data every month for 8 months. Get the Kapote Super now from any MTN shop countrywide. Everywhere you go, MTN. Regulated by UCC.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
He must be rich, tall, handsome, from a respectable family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
What? Obadde olobye ku simu?
Yamunange anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumira omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kwotadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya TV channels ku simu yo olwo onyumirwa ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kukozesa data.
TV channels.
Smart 24, driving business.
You're welcome back from that short commercial break, and thank you for sticking with us. Now, Uganda is a country endowed with various natural resources such as oil, gas, minerals, forests, and water bodies. Unfortunately, exploitation and management of these resources has not always been optimal, leading to adverse economic, social, and environmental impacts. RONAH with the report.
Natural resources are important to Uganda's economy since they contribute significantly to both employment and the gross domestic product of the nation. For instance, the mining industry contributed 2.3% to the nation's GDP in 2021. 41% of Uganda is affected by degradation, with soil erosion having the greatest negative effects on agriculture and the environment. Furthermore, the mismanagement of these resources has affected the country's economy.
The challenge we have had of environmental degradation has been rooted in our traditional thinking about development. When I was in school, people used to talk about development as human ability to exploit nature and natural resources. Using that thinking, we have destroyed this country, we have destroyed the natural resources, and if we are to change, the thinking must change. Development must be looked at as a process that is guided by the people and with the people at the center, where they make decisions and determine their destinies. Not whereby we come to exploit and take out what we can, and in the end, we lose.
Natural resource depletion, particularly in forests and wetlands, raises concerns that economic expansion has come at the expense of the environment and natural resources. Wetlands in Uganda are being destroyed, and the country now has less wetlands than it had in the 1990s. In urban places, there is uncontrolled encroachment of human settlement, expansion and industrialization, while wetlands in rural areas are steadily converted for agriculture use. Degradation of these critical resources results in biodiversity loss and environmental degradation.
Then a few years down the road, oil and gas developments begin. Before we know it, roads are being cut across through the forests of the critical linkages. And then escalation of human-wildlife conflict. While we are in the middle of it, the Ministry of Agriculture comes up with a plan, or is it investment, comes up with a plan to shift sugarcane growing to that area.
All of us stop at the level of awareness. But beyond awareness, we have got to get genuine knowledge and understanding of the human being and natural systems. So it's not about be aware that cutting trees is bad, but what is the underlying challenges and problems when we cut trees? What are the likely repercussions of that?
Additionally, the country's natural resources have also been misused through corruption, whereby government officials receive bribes and kickbacks in exchange for licenses and permits to exploit natural resources. The use of backdoor has not only depleted the natural resources, but also revenue is lost.
Many people have been detached from nature because of the Western influence, the lifestyle. Many people, for us when we were growing up, we were so much detached to nature. We appreciated forests, we appreciated wetlands, we appreciated mountains and everything. Young people have been what? Detached from nature. How can we ensure that? Connect people back to nature.
Addressing natural resource mismanagement will require a concerted effort from all stakeholders, including the government, civil society organizations, and the private sector. Increased transparency and accountability and better management practices can help ensure that Uganda's natural resources are utilized sustainably in order to benefit everybody. Bronya Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, while appearing before the committee of Kosase, authorities from Kampala Capital City Authority, accompanied by the Executive Director, Dorothy Chisaka, have failed to provide a proper accountability for money appropriated for different activities, as well as explaining why they can't pay casual workers who are on strike.
Recently, casual workers of KCCA went on strike for delayed payments, yet they are paid very little money on top of not remitting their NSSF, yet it's deducted from their salaries. Authorities of Kampala Capital City Authority have failed to explain to the committee why they cannot pay their casual workers.
The casual workers, these people who clean the streets and all of that, they get very little money, but then that money sometimes goes for months without coming through. Why? First of all, it's little money, but you're not paying it on time. They go for months without that money. It is not right. And then they said, you see, shortfalls. But now, why, when you have a shortage, why do you first focus on paying the bigger people and the small ones, so to call them? You're not attending to them. Other issues like NSSF, payee, these are statutory deductions that are not catered for, you know. You're not permitting NSSF for this stuff, so they are losing out on interest. This is money meant for them. Why? It is improper.
Honorable Itungo Nathan asked the chair of the committee to consider sending away the authority members until they come back with proper documents that speak to their responses.
When you look at what we are going through here, it's as if we are in an exit meeting. These matters of documents, of evidence, should have been resolved in an exit meeting, not here. When we start asking for documents, see, KCC, NIA, whatever, Mr. Chairman, I think we are wasting a lot of time here. Let's be polite enough. And even when you're asking questions, you see executive director looking for who should answer, and the one who is going to answer is not sure which query. Mr. Chairman, our opinion is that we give KCCA team a chance to go back and sit in the boardroom and they resolve this query by query, and they put the documents together.
According to Joel Senyonyi, the committee chair, KCCA turns out to be a disorganized entity, yet it has many technical personnel running it. The committee has decided to push the meeting until they bring all the necessary documents that are needed.
The Auditor General is saying the outputs could not be quantified, and that means you're not able to ascertain, was this money properly utilized? It's a problem. Okay, so all the issues that you have seen us being insistent on, documents are not as available, this one is saying this, the other one is saying another thing altogether, money for renovations of classrooms and so on, 500 million shillings. They are cracks after a very short while, and then for them they're saying, but you see, that's not the money we used our personal money. But the Auditor General is saying, this is the money that they spent, taxpayers' money. So all of these are questions that we want answers from the team from KCCA. They must be able to account, because this is taxpayers' money.
The meeting with KCCA has been pushed to next week until KCCA officials bring all the documents needed by the committee. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, the Dock Workers Union has issued a 21-day ultimatum to the employer, the Kenya Ports Authority, to suspend a new medical scheme that is currently being piloted. The new scheme, which is yet to be registered, is only to be piloted for 1 year, subject to review after 6 months.
Mr. Simon Sang, the Secretary General of the Dock Workers, underscored that the union had already raised their concerns with Kenya Ports Authority management but had received no satisfactory response. The new scheme, which was introduced by Kenya Ports Authority, had intended to replace the existing medical scheme that has been working for over a decade.
The issue of mishandling of medical scheme, which we signed on a trial basis. We had said, we agreed that we are going to have a trial for 6 months and have a review of the same. It was also agreed that we are going to have a second trial after another 6 months. That was supposed to run from January to June and then June to December. Very surprisingly, they have come up with an arrangement which is incompatible with humanity.
According to Kenya Ports Authority, the new scheme will provide more comprehensive coverage for workers and their families, and will also be more cost-effective. However, the Dock Workers Union is not convinced. The union argues that the new scheme is being introduced without proper consultation with workers, and that it will be more expensive for them in the long run. It also claims that the new scheme will not provide adequate coverage for some of the chronic illnesses that are common among dock workers.
We are giving management of Kenya Ports Authority 21 days to remove or to transfer the 3 officers, because they are of no value to Kenya Ports Authority. They are not adding value to management of KPA. They are not adding value to the Kenya government. they are not adding value to the ministry. And that is why we are saying as workers that we are going to have 3 demonstrations. Every 7 days, we are going to demonstrate in the entire town because of the 3 guys. However, we are also going to have an arrangement of meeting the CS Transport within 5 days. We are also going to meet the president within 5 days so that we explain the situation in Kenya Ports Authority.
Kenya Ports Authority management, on the other hand, has defended the new scheme, saying that it has been designed to meet the specific needs of dock workers and their families. They have also denied any wrongdoing, saying that the scheme has been piloted in accordance with the law.
From that superior medical facility, transfer to inferior medical facility. That's why we have agreed and signed the document, but not registered for the trial.
The 21-day ultimatum issued by the Dock Workers Union is set to expire in the coming weeks. If Kenya Ports Authority fails to suspend the new medical scheme by then, the union has threatened to call for a nationwide strike among dock workers. The implication of the new medical scheme has been a continuous issue in the Kenyan port industry, with various stakeholders taking different positions on the matter. The outcome of the ongoing dispute between the dock workers and Kenya Ports Authority management is expected to have significant implications for the future of medical schemes in the industry. Martha Nimsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Moving on, in a bid to improve and streamline mobility across Kampala, targeting low-income commuters, a public-private cooperation between Uganda Railways Corporation and 2 mobility companies, that is Easy Matatu and Safe Border, will ensure exploitation of the last-mile gap and still provide convenience. Let's have the report. Kampala's disjointed transport network, largely covering road and rail, has eventually opened up room for resolve and market utilization. Commuters aligned to railway transport and along Kampala's operational rail network, Kampala-NAHABWE corridor, Portville and Chengela, taxi and border users have all been targeted in the latest mobility partnership between Uganda Railways Corporation and 2 hybrid transit companies, that is Safe Border and Easy Matatu, to their final destinations.
Starting April for the next 6 months, I think to October, we shall be renovating the line between Kampala and Mukono. So when that is done, we shall have that extension. The other route is Kampala-Portville, that we are planning to have as soon as, actually, I think in the next few months, we shall be communicating. Kampala-Chengela, that is catered for under the African Development Bank loan, and then that we can also give it another 6 months for it to manifest.
The integrated transport agenda envisions a transport grid linking railway, road and marine. The current transport partnership that commenced in October 2022 has informally been operational since January, although there still remains interest over integration of 3 involved parties and alignment of commuters to the service.
With URC, where we are doing our end-to-end integration. So in the app, you will book a train ticket, and as part of that booking, you will also book a seat on a taxi that takes you to your final destination. When you're using the app, you don't have to do the integration yourself. It's just one booking, one payment. And when you reach the final stop, you will see an Easy Matatu, a branded Easy Matatu, whose number plate and driver you have in the app. So the passengers, once they reach NAHABWE, they off-board the train, then they board the taxi without any payment that takes them directly to their destination.
Current rail passengers. So because of that, a lot of the awareness programs on ensuring that these customers using the rail are aware of the additional service.
The evolving transport ecosystem with ride-hailing startups like Safe Border, Easy Matatu and Uber are changing the same informal transport system, and the business venture shall be a prototype for Uganda's transport restructuring. NAHABWE, Smart 24 TV, Business Today. Away from that, during the physical verification exercise aiming at assessing how the lockups were distributed to vendors in Kabale Central Market, RDC Kabale District directed the arrest of about 10 vendors who forged documents. This exercise was conducted by a team that was instituted by the Minister of Local Government, Raphael Magezi, early this month.
According to Kabale District Resident Commissioner, RONAH Bakaku headed the team. The arrests were made to a number of vendors that were found with no clear documents to prove their allocation in the new market. Bakak further said that some confessed that they grabbed the lockups without going through the right and clear channels, hence directing their arrest to assist police in investigation.
In the exercises that we started today, we handed over some people to police so that police can help us to investigate and get the truth, because some of them were found in lockups and they confessed that they just grabbed them. So we handed over such a person to police to help us investigate that issue. Then others, we found them in the lockups without any documentation. Others, we found out that they had documentations, but the documentations had their own handwritings.
Bakak adds that more lockups were found locked and non-functioning, expecting that vendors might have intended to close them to skip the verification process. He adds that when the grace period of 2 months given to vendors elapses, the locked lockups will be considered vacant and they will be handed over to Kabale municipal authorities and later allocated to vendors willing to use them.
Found out that some lockups are still locked, despite the fact that the market was officially launched and was handed over to the vendors. We don't want to conclude over that matter because the guidelines gives them 2 months. So we are going to cross-check from the date when this market was officially opened to date how many days they are remaining with. As long as the 2-month grace period is over and those lockups are still locked, we shall consider them vacant and they will be handed over to municipality to be given out to other vendors. Minister for Local Government constituted a committee to investigate the allegations in Kabale Central Market. So today we started officially the exercise of physical verification, because one of the allegations was that most of the current occupants of lockups and stalls are not genuine.
The chairperson of the allocations committee in the new Kabale Central Market, Reverend Kanonja Katarishangwa, says that most of the lockups being owned by civil servants and politicians in the district were not verified because the majority were found closed.
It was a fair exercise according to what I have seen, because I was witnessing, I was with them. Only that there was a point where you could reach and find that the inhabitant, the one who is there, really is not the owner. Is not the owner. No documents. Maybe those are some of those people who had a boat, who bought these lockups.
Canon Katarishangwa adds that these grant-led merchants can be given a place to work from, provided the team follows the correct protocol. He goes on to say that if nothing changes, they will request the government to consider compensating them for the loss of space in the new market, despite the fact that they were previous occupants.
If they continue with the spirit they have started with, it might yield something. If they don't change the way they are doing it, and our presence means a lot. We who are complaining, when we are there, we cannot allow them to do it in a negative way.
More than 200 aggrieved vendors were denied space in the new Kabale Central Market, attracted the attention of the local government minister, Honorable Raphael Majezi, in January, few weeks after the relocation process. He constituted a special committee headed by Kabale District RDC to investigate circumstances under which genuine vendors had not gotten lockups for carrying their businesses. Among the arrested was Esau Orichiriza, lockup A1065, found with no documents to prove his allocation. Medat Bisamuya, lockup A1084, found with forged allocation slip and no other documents. John Bonigaba, the chairperson of Abashobozi Tukore Group, found with no documents to prove the office's allocation. Ndiamohachi Nobat, Martha Nimsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Thank you, Nobat and Martha Nimsima, for that report. Now, as we get close to the end of Business Today, I would like us to look at what made the headlines.
Uganda Climate Forum stakeholders revisit COP27 outcomes. Climate financing shortfalls highlighted as $100 billion pledged for developing countries is still unmet. KPA Dock Workers Union Tambo. The Dock Workers Union serves Kenya Ports Authority 21 days ultimatum to fix medical scheme. And also, integrated transport. The Uganda Railways Corporation partners with private hybrid transport providers to maximize in the last mile market.
This is the end of business today. As always, thank you for the pleasure of your time. I'm RONAH NAHABWE with Winnie and NAKAWUKI in the sign language. Have a lovely night.